Coming to Canada's Wonderland in 2019, we have Yukon Striker, the world's tallest, fastest, and longest dive coaster. That's right, Cedar Fair is breaking their own record, so now everything Valraven ever broke is now irrelevant. Congratulations, Cedar Fair, you've done it once again. So in this analysis video, I'll be talking about everything you need to know about Yukon Striker, this huge new coaster coming to Canada's Wonderland for next season. I'm going to be breaking down everything related to the layout, and then at the end of the video, I'll be giving my thoughts on it. So first things first, let's go over some of the stats. We have a height of 245 feet. And that actually drops you 90 degrees straight down into an underwater tunnel. If you've been to Canada's Wonderland, you know they have this little lake that vortex goes over, and at one point it goes through this helix, so the coaster is actually diving through this helix, which is really impressive. I think that is probably one of the best tunnel features I've ever seen. So very impressed with that. We have a total of 4 inversions, top speed of 80 miles per hour, a track length of 3,625 feet. So it is a pretty long ride, and just by looking at the layout, it does look to be like one of the longest dive coasters in terms of like elements. I don't know if I've seen a dive coaster with this many elements. The only one that comes close is Valraven. But I think what this one did a bit different is that Valraven has more elements in the second half of the ride, aka after the second drop. This one definitely has more elements before the second drop. Moving on to the trains, they are the same exact trains as Valraven, so we have 3 rows of 8 riders making it 24 passengers per train, and they do have the vests, which I'll be talking about that later. Looking at some of the elements, immediately after that drop into the underwater tunnel, we have an Immelman, and that is followed by this huge 0G roll. And then you go from there into a vertical loop, which is kind of a weird choice for a dive coaster. We've never seen a vertical loop on a dive coaster before, and actually the first time I saw that in the animation, I was like, what the heck? It has a vertical loop? A 95-foot tall loop? Like, this is amazing. Actually, I'm not like super impressed by it. I'm kind of like, okay, why did they put a vertical loop on a dive coaster? It seems kind of like a really weird choice, actually. Moving on, we then go into another Immelman, and that is when you enter the mid-course brake run. This is a really long mid-course brake run, if I might add. And that goes into a smaller drop. And actually, this one is really not that big at all, but it drops you straight into a helix that goes over the pathway, and then you go into the brake run. So I like to call this the kind of gatekeeper style ending, where it's kind of anticlimactic. Everything after the mid-course just seems kind of like it was just thrown in there so that they could get the record for the longest dive coaster. I think the helix over the pathway will be cool, especially if you're looking up at it. But in terms of ride experience, I think a drop into a helix is not going to be exactly the best. If you notice, all 4 of the inversions are before the mid-course. You look at Valraven that has 3, you have 1 before the mid-course and then 2 after. So it's really kind of interesting what they did with the layout. It is a different layout than I think what we're used to. And this is all taking place over that former Skyrider plot of land. And actually they're also using the land on the other side of Vortex, which I'm surprised they're not using more of, because that's a decent amount of space, but if you look, they're really only using it for that first inversion. If you pause right here, look at all that space off to the left hand side. They could have fit another element in there. So it's really kind of strange that they just left it wide open like that. So most of the ride is taking place on the other side. So all in all, I think that the layout that they have is interesting. Again, I kind of questioned the whole vertical loop thing, and I think the ending is kind of lame. A lot of people are talking about how they think the layout is better than Valraven, and honestly, I'm not sure I agree with that. And let me state my reasoning. I think the Valraven looks to have the better second half. That dive loop followed by that slow-moving 0G roll is quite nice. The second half on this ride does not look that impressive. By far, Yukon Striker has the better first half, but I'm just not sure that this will necessarily be better than Valraven. I think what will make it better than Valraven will be that drop underwater through Vortex. Not only is it near miss, but it's nice that it has a tunnel. So let's get into some of my thoughts. I'm going to start with the name, Yukon Striker. I think it is a terrible name. I'm not a fan of the name at all. I think the logo is great. I think they did a great job on making the logo look awesome. It looks like you almost have like a Wonder Mountain in the background. I get Yukon as like a Canadian thing, but Striker? Okay, so they're going for a bird, I guess? Which a bird dive coaster theme. Wow, we've never seen that before. I mean, I don't actually expect any theming during the ride. But Yukon Striker, it just doesn't flow off the tongue. It's kind of a weird name. The first time I heard it, I thought it was a joke. Like, I didn't think they were actually naming it that. So, not personally a fan. But overall thoughts on, like, the ride, I think it'll be nice that Canada's Wonderland will finally have like a top 3, because right now they only have a top 2. The rest of the coasters in the park are really kind of mediocre, so now we're getting a big 3. They're all from B&M. I don't think a dive coaster is the best fit for Wonderland. You guys know that. I've said that in previous videos. But since it's happening, we're going to try and make the best of it. But there is one critical thing that makes me not super excited for this ride, and it is that it has the vest restraints. I think there are time and a place for vest restraints. A dive coaster is not one of them. Valraven is honestly one of my least favorite dive coasters because you don't feel anything with the vest. You don't get any airtime on that drop. And with Yukon Striker having the largest drop on a dive coaster, I would like to be able to actually feel that. I'd like to be able to lift up out of my seat, feel the airtime. With the normal over-the-shoulder restraint that you see on Griffon, Shikra, any of the dive coasters in Europe, well, except for Valkyria, you're gonna get that. This drop is going to be huge and you're not going to feel a thing because of the vests. So personally, this ride is not highly anticipated for me. Honestly, I don't care too much for it. Obviously, I'll judge it when I ride it. Maybe I'm wrong, and honestly, I hope I'm wrong. But personally, I'm not super excited for this ride. I think it'll do good things for this park, but like I said, I don't think it was the best fit to begin with. And I'm sorry if I'm coming across as super negative. I think most of you guys know dive coasters are not necessarily my favorite. I think the best thing about dive coasters is that you can theme them really well. So rides like Oblivion the Black Hole and Baron 1898 are personally some of my favorite dive coasters. And Yukon Striker, like I said, I don't anticipate any real legit theming, which is really too bad. So big takeaways, I think the best moment will be that drop underwater through Vortex. And I'm kind of curious to see how that second inversion is. That seems kind of whack. But the rest of it, I think it'll be fine. So those are just kind of my thoughts on Yukon Striker coming to Canada's Wonderland in 2019. You can let me know down in the comment section below what you think of this ride. Do you agree with what I've said? Do you disagree? You can let me know. And of course, stay tuned for more analyses for future roller coasters coming to parks next year. I'm sure I'll have lots more coming, so stay tuned for those and we'll catch you guys later.